Hey guys, Star here, and welcome to another video. So, as you can see, I'm in my apartment here. This is the living room, and right here's my laptop, and we've got a Q&A for you guys today. So, I asked around on Reddit and YouTube, and I selected 10 questions from a bunch, and now I'm gonna make a Q&A out of it. So, in celebration of getting 1,000 YouTube subscribers, I've decided to do a little question and answer for those of you who don't know. I was hired by CSX in February of this past year, 2022, and I was in Atlanta for a month and came back to Maryland in March and moved out to Cumberland, and now I work as a freight conductor. So I'm a freight conductor. So I decided to do a little question and answer session where people asked me a bunch of questions and I decided to answer a bunch of them. So 10 questions, 10 people, let's get started. All right, so our first question here is from Girl Mom 2, and it is, what is a typical week for a new hire as far as off time? That's a pretty interesting question. So new hires, we get on what is called the extra board, which is pretty much all the people that fill in vacancies, fill in absences for whatever needs to be done, be it the yard, be it the road, be it local. The extra board is to pretty much just fill in vacancies and people as needed. It's extra people. So in case all the people on the normal day-to-day lineup are working, they pull off the extra board. And we've been quite busy lately, so I've pretty much worked every single day. But yeah, no, as far as new hire off time, I don't get very much. Maybe a couple days every about 6 days every week, couple days a week, 6 days, one off day. My off day is Monday. So every week I get Monday off, and then if I hit 6 starts or take 6 trips in a row without a day break in between, I get 2 days off. So that's how the typical week goes for me as far as off time. So yeah, thanks for the question, and let's move on to the next one. All right, so our next question is from GERBS2267, and it is, do you also think that Biden might prioritize or subsidize rail to alleviate supply chain issues, or was that just a pipe dream? So that's another really good question. So the president of the United States doesn't do very much in the way of governing the railroads. That's the FRA's job, and he doesn't do very much other than order us back to work if we strike, which is rare and is actually, it might happen soon. So as of October 2022, a strike is very possible. So things have been getting quite bad here. The supply chain runs a lot deeper than just trains not running. It runs with the carriers, the big companies in charge of the railroads, so like CSX, NS, BNSF, UP, etc. So the big issue is that people are fed the heck up with the garbage that they're doing to us. They're working us really hard. They're having us do work that we shouldn't even technically be doing. Our interdivisional pool to Baltimore, for instance, we're only supposed to be going on and off, get on, get off, and that's it. We're not supposed to work anything in Cumberland. We're not supposed to work anything in Baltimore, but they're having us work Cumberland and having us work Baltimore on either end. So make of that what you will. People are getting quite fed up with just how much they're overworking us, how little time we get off, and everything like that. And so as a result of that, people are quitting left and right. So 30 people left in New York in a single day. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The issues run a lot deeper than that. Like, we haven't had a pay contract in like 3 years. So yeah, it's getting kind of bad out there. And because of that, it's not real. The president can't do very much, let's be real. That's mostly the carriers, and he can't do very much other than just send us back to work. So no, Biden can't really do, like I said, he can't do very much to alleviate the supply chain. That's the carriers. The next question is from Darklink1996, and it is, what made you want to work for the railroad? So I got started on the railroad track, no pun intended, way early. So my grandparents, my mom's stepmom and her father lived in Ohio, in Stryker, on the Norfolk Southern Chicago line, like I could go up to the second floor and look out the window and see the main line. And so my grandfather and ancestors on his side worked for the railroad. And so he got me on the track really, really early when I was like 2. So I've been on the track since 2, like watching trains, seeing things go by, seeing how things work. And so it's a bit of a long story, but to make a long story short, I decided that higher education wasn't for me, and so I chose the railroad path. And here I am, about 2 years later, 3 years later. 3 years later, here I am now, a full conductor. So there we go. That's how I got to work on the railroad. So from Railfanning Points 2.0, how many middle finger salutes have you given rail fans or foamers? And that's a really funny one. I really like that one a lot. And 0, I have given precisely 0. Though my signature 3-finger wave is what I do. I give the 3 fingers. I give the 3 fingers out the window. Maybe a little bit of that. But in general, either that, or if I see my parents by the tracks, I'll do a love sign. But other than that, I'm pretty tame when it comes to that kind of stuff. So a big one here from Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. What happens when you have to walk the train and you come to a place that you can't go, such as a washout or culvert where cars hang over the only walkable space? Can you climb over the coupler and continue on the hot side, especially if you can't get radio communication? So that's a really good question. So in the case of a washout, we wouldn't be able to move the train at all in that case. So if there was a washout somewhere, that would cause us to derail or whatever, and we go on the ground, I have to report that. If there's no radio reception, the only option at that point is to call your engineer on his cell phone. So worst case scenario, absolute emergency, you can we do call each other on the cell phone in like last case scenario. So like 0 radio communication, 0 nothing. I'm in the middle of nowhere. He can't hear me. I can't hear him. Dispatcher can't relay for us. Because that's not the dispatcher's job. The dispatcher's job is to dispatch trains, not to relay for a conductor and an engineer who are walking and inspecting for things that went wrong. So if I come to a washout and our train's on the ground and there's no radio reception, then yes, that's what I would do. Can I climb onto the hot side? So if it's an auto-rack train and I'm stuck on one side of the train, what I would do is I would just climb. I would walk both sides and get blocking protection on the opposite track. So what that is my engineer would contact the dispatcher over the radio and ask for him to pretty much shut down the track until I'm done inspecting. So that's what blocking is, and it's something that actually happens a lot, especially when doing a long brake test. So yeah, that's what we would do if we can't get in communication with each other. We would have to call each other on our cell phone. That's the only way we could do it. If I have to get on the hot side, then yes, I would get protection on the opposite track. So from Austin Hodges, the Railfan, I got a question. Why do you need a driver's license to operate a train? Because I was told by a detective that you need one, but the railroad requires one. And why is that? I've looked up the answer and it says the same thing. You don't need one. So yes and no. To be a conductor, you don't need one, but they look at your driving records anyway. Now, to be a locomotive engineer, you do need to provide your driving history and all of your accidents, yada yada yada, because if you're an engineer, you are driving the train, so you need to have a driver's license. So that kind of goes without saying. But if you're a conductor like me, you don't really need one, because if you get in like an accident with a car or whatever, you provide your FRA ID and that's all they need. They don't need your driver's license, they don't need anything, you just flash your railroad ID and that's it. So, from a good friend of mine, Smite Site, where did your interest in trains come from? I kind of answered that question earlier with what got me on the track to becoming a conductor, and it mostly came from my grandparents and the fact that my grandfather and his side of the family were all railroaders, and they live like right next to the railroad tracks. That's where my interest came from, and I can't really elaborate much more on that. But to go into a little bit more of my history on like how I've been like on like the train track is like I've gone to like the B&O Museum. I've been a Railfan for forever. That's what my channel is mostly about. I model, I do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, I've had a very vested interest in trains for a very long time. So from the Hamel's Duck, what made you want to be a conductor or work for the railroad? And what was the coolest thing you've seen riding in the cab? I'll answer the second question. So the coolest thing I've ever seen from the cab was, I mean, from a Railfan perspective, I've seen some pretty cool locomotives. I've seen a Ferromex out there on our territory. I've seen a Ferromex. I've seen a UP. I've seen UP. I've seen BNSF. I've seen CP, CN. I've seen all that. But the coolest train that I've ever ridden in the cab of, I'll provide a picture right up there, is of CN 3147, which is a 100th anniversary Tier 4 ES44 AC, and that was a really cool locomotive to be in. It's got a microwave, it's got a hot plate, it's got an electric fridge, so like a real fridge and not just an ice box. It's got air ride seats, it's got cup holders, it's got like literally freaking everything. That locomotive is loaded. You could literally live in there. So yeah, no, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen and been inside the cab. So yeah, no, definitely the CN 3147 is very high up there. So from Blaze06, how long have you worked for CSX, and my favorite locomotive and thoughts on Pan Am? So the Pan Am takeover, I don't really care. We're getting some of our engines back. We got one of our standard cab -8s back, if that's of any use. But my favorite locomotive to be on CSX, my favorite locomotive to operate would definitely be the ET44AH, the Tier 4 ES44 AC. So yeah, the Tier 4s are really, really nice. I mean, they're usually taken pretty well care of. They're much newer, so they obviously don't have a whole lot of wear. The seats are pretty decent. Some of them have a working fridge, some of them don't. All of them have most of them have air conditioning, and most of them have heat. So that's really all I want in an engine. That's my favorite engine from CSX, really, is the ET44AH. And I've worked for CSX since February of 2022. So do the math there. That's about 7-8-ish months. And last but not least, from James Halbert, is working for the railroad as bad as people make it out to be? What do you like or dislike about it? So it depends on who you ask. The old heads will tell you it frickin' sucks. People like me who are there just because it's a career that I've wanted to get into and had an interest in getting into for a while. I mean, I'd say there are bad days, there are good days, there are days that are just mediocre. I'd say most of my days have just been average. Some have been really, really bad, where like we expected to have like a 4-hour day and it turned into like a 13-hour day. And some days have been really good, where we've just gotten on the train and got off the train and made $800 in 4 hours. So yeah, no, definitely some days are better than others. Obviously that goes with any job, but especially the railroad, because you can get screwed a lot by factors that are completely out of your control. What do I like about the job? Other than the route, there's no variety to the route, but there's a variety to what I do. No day is really truly identical to the next. There's quite a bit of variety. What do I not like about it? I don't like the fact that I have no rest. I don't like the fact that I have no schedule. Doctor's appointments are really hard to keep. Stuff like mental health appointments are really hard to keep. I can't have any commitments. I can't really much have a life outside the railroad. So that's what I really dislike about it. That, and I also don't eat very well on the railroads. So not eat as in like don't eat very much. I just eat really bad food. So like your health kind of goes down, your health can go down the toilet, and so can your sanity. But it's balanced out by the coworkers that I work with. All of the people that I've worked with the exception of like one, have been really, really cool people. And in general, it's it depends on how you look at it and from what lens. So yeah, that's what I like and what I dislike about it. And yeah, it's not as terrible as people would make it out to be, but again, it depends on who you ask. Hey guys, thanks for sticking through the Q&A, and thanks for all your questions, and I was very happy to make this video at long last. So again, thanks for all your support. I got quite a few questions this time around, about 13 or so, 14 or so, and I decided to include the best 10, and with no clear repeats. So thank you very much for your continued support of the channel, and thank you for sticking by me, as right now I'm going through some kind of difficult times. So thanks for your support, guys, and it means a lot. And again, if you like this video and want to see more, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and do all that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll leave you with this with the rest of this roll by of an I-137 as it glides down the hill. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.